Today is March 22nd, and the MLB season is about to start. Between the Bases starts right now. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Between the Bases podcast. My name is Noka. Alongside me is Mo, and we're also joined by probably the longest guest we've had on Between the Bases, Max Mannis. Max, how you doing?
Yo, what's up, guys? Thank you guys for having me on. Always a good time coming on, talking ball with you guys. Yeah, it's been cool to see that you guys have kept this up and had a lot of really cool people on. So always rooting for you guys, and good to be back on.
So everyone knows that the MLB season is about to start, but what comes with that is predictions. So let's do our predictions. We're going to go by division, starting from 5. We're going to work our way up. And let's start with number 5 in the AL East. Who do you think it's going to be, Max?
I feel like, listen, the answer is the Red Sox, right? I'm gonna go out on a limb and say maybe that all three of us are gonna have that, and I feel like maybe we'll get some comments being like, "Oh, Yankees fans, blah blah blah." I really do feel like this is the first time in a little while where there's a very clear, no, they are the worst team in the AL East, maybe since the Baltimore days. I think the other four all have a very solid chance to contend for a playoff spot, and the Red Sox, I don't really know what's going on there right now.
Yeah, I agree with you with the Red Sox being in last place. They're not that bad of a team. They're just pretty mid. If they were in the Central, they'd be one of the upper teams there. But in the AL East, they didn't add enough this offseason. They're the clear worst team in the AL East.
Yeah, I'm also going to go to the Red Sox. With Garrett Cole gone for 2 months, they're not going to get their runs in. So I'm going to go to the Red Sox in last. Who do you got in fourth?
I think the Rays. I could see this going a few ways. I definitely don't have that as firmly of a lock as I have the Red Sox, but I was going back and forth, spoiler, between the Jays and the Rays there. And I still think that I just like Toronto's pitching too much, and I don't love their lineup as much as I have in recent years, but I can't imagine it being bad enough to sink them to a fourth place team. And the Rays, I don't know. They always, am I going to look up at the end of the year and they'll have 90 wins again? Yeah, no one should be surprised by that. But I look at them right now, and I don't know. It doesn't really feel the way it has in recent years. The Wander stuff is bad. They lost Glasnow. I'm sure they're going to replace those guys in some way, but I don't love it.
I'm going to say it's going to be the Blue Jays. I have to disagree with you on that. They lost Matt Chapman. Their only real addition this offseason was IKF, which isn't a player that's going to put you over the top. Again, with the Rays, they're bringing all these random guys, and you're going to look up, and it's going to be like the All-Star break, and Ahmed Rosario is going to have a 900 OPS, and it's just going to be like, where'd that come from? And it's just the Rays. There's going to be these random guys that they bring in. They're just going to produce, and that's why they're going to be the better team than the Blue Jays, and they'll be in third, and the Blue Jays will be in fourth. Sorry for the spoiler, but it's pretty obvious. The two top teams are pretty obvious.
I mean, I would love to put the Rays at 4, but there's a part of me don't bet against the Rays. If you bet against the Rays, then they're just going to end up. I think they can win this division, but I think it's really tough between the Yankees and Orioles. I think it's going to be the Blue Jays at 4, and I think it was on Wake and Jake where Foolish Bailey came on, and he said that at the trade deadline it wouldn't shock him if the Jays traded Bo Bichette, and it wouldn't shock me either. I think this is a Jays team that they talk a lot, but they can't produce anything. And I think Vladdy, he's going to go out there, he's going to have a big year, but he just talks, and this team is not really put together well.
Yeah, I think it was, I was reading Passan's preseason, on all 30 teams, and his thing on, I think he said the Jays, he was they might have the biggest gap in the league between their floor and their ceiling. As far as how bad they could be versus how good they could be, that team really might just, I think the pitching is really good. Again, I said that, I'll say it again. But as far as the offense, they really might just go as far as Vladdy takes them. And the past couple of years have been good. Don't get me wrong, good years. I think he's made the All-Star year, the All-Star team the past 3 years. But they have. I think Jake was kind of saying this on one of the episodes of his 2021 is an outlier right now. I think after 2021 we were all sitting there expecting they're going to be that's who he is and that's what they can count on, and he's been more of I'm going to guess a 120 OPS plus player since then. Off the top of my head, I have no idea if it's something in that realm, which is don't get me wrong, a really good baseball player, a player any team would gladly take on their team. But he has not been, I think this is kind of a big year for him to prove, no, I still have some of that 2021 in the bag.
And I feel as a Yankee fan, the only team I actually feel confident playing in the AL East is the Blue Jays. I feel every time I play the Blue Jays, we're going to win the game, and I don't have that against any other AL East team.
Yeah, it's a hot take right there. Like to say, I mean, I don't know, a hot take in that I just really don't think the Red Sox are going to be good this year. But I don't know. The Red Sox are always going to be annoying, even if they're not good. So yeah, we shall see.
So you're gonna go Blue Jays at 3. Mo, you're going Braves at 3, and I'm gonna go Rays at 3. So who do you got at 2?
Me, I'm not gonna take the Yankees to win the AL East. Like I don't care how bad they are any given year. Listen, I'm a Yankees fan at the end of the day, and that means that I'm going to start the year every single season, unless I have a really good reason not to. I'm going to start every season with the irrational spring training, vibes are high hope of the Yankees winning the AL East. So I'm going to go Baltimore second.
I agree with you on that. The Yankees out of Juan Soto, Marcus Stroman, 2 big names. A lot of people have underrated the value Marcus Stroman brings. Like, he's a top of the end arm. And the Orioles, they got Corbin Burns, who is, like, don't get me wrong, a great pitcher. But they don't have the experience that the Yankees have. They don't, like, Juan Soto, he's done it for many years, even though he's only 25. He's going to win MVP this year. Judge will be there. The real thing that's going to define the Yankee season for winning the AL East is how they're going to be able to hold up without Cole, having how that 5th starter will perform in Cole's place, because not having Cole for the first 2 months of the year is really going to hurt them. But if they can hold it together, if those first 2 months, they're going to win the division.
I know I'm a Yankee fan, but I'm going to take the Yankees second in that division. I think part of me wants the Yankees to finish second in the division, because if you look at the past, look at last year, both World Series teams were wildcard teams, and I feel like the Yankees need that type of momentum. Sitting out a week is not going to do it for the Yankees, who love to be on the injured list, who love to be hurt. And I don't really see it. I think the Orioles are much better than the Yankees. I think what can go wrong for the Yankees will go wrong. And I think it all depends on Rodon. If Rodon is good, then this team is good. If Stanton is good, then this team is good. It depends on really those 2 players, because if you have a second great pitcher and a really good bat behind Judge and Soto, I think that's going to make the difference.
Yeah, I think you're leaving out Rizzo a little bit there as far as depth behind Judge and Soto. I do agree with your point about Rodon, though, that if Rodon is anything close to what he was last year, it is going to be the Yankees are going to need literally everything else to go well. If Rodon's bad, that means you need Cole to really come back in that 2-month time frame. You really need Stroman, Nestor, Clark, you need all of those guys to pitch to their 80th percentile outcome. You need their best, really, and you need the bats to click. Really, the offense is a lot of what it comes down to at the end of the day. The reason they stunk last year was that they didn't hit. And I don't know, they went out and got a pretty good guy to fix that. But that's if Rodon is bad, and with Cole already being out 2 months, you need literally everything to go well.
So let's move on to the AL Central. I think in 5th place, we're all going to unanimously take the Chicago White Sox. Someone correct me if I'm wrong.
You're correct on my end.
Yes,
So let's just move on to 4. Who do you got at 4, Wax?
I have the Royals there. I do think that this is the first time in a little while that the Royals are they do have some really legit foundational pieces that I think pretty much everyone's on board at this point. Bobby Witt, is a guy, is going to get MVP votes, is going to be a really, really good baseball player for a really long time. Pasquantino had the injury last year and had some slumping, I think probably, if I had to guess, while he was hurt. But I like him to come back and just be a really solid bat in that order. I know there are the nerds that like Maikel Garcia. Their pitching, Reagans is another, the nerds love him. And his numbers in the second half last year are hard to argue with. I don't know. I like that they went out and signed a few guys to 1-2 year deals this offseason, the Waka Lugo types. I don't know that it's going to mean enough for them this year, but I'm glad for them that they're no longer in we'll be good when we're good, I guess. I think they're actually now at a point of hey, we can put a time frame on this.
Yeah, for me, I'm going to go with the Tigers in 4th place. You said the Royals, they have a foundation. The Tigers really have no foundation. They have no direction. Javi Baez, he's been horrible this spring. He's been horrible the last few years, really fallen off. They don't really have a guy that's going to, that's a clear-cut all-star. Anything it's going to be another random guy making the all-star team for them this year. They have no really good players besides Tariq Skubal, but again, he's done it for 1 year. Last year he was okay. You really don't know what you're going to get from them. They could be 3rd, 4th. It's going to be one of those, but I see them coming in 4th.
Okay, so I've been back and forth with them and another team in the AL Central, and I think I'm going to put Cleveland at 4. I don't really see a direction for Cleveland. I mean, I love what the Royals did this offseason, so that's why I'm going to put them at 3rd. I think they're going to have a great year, and Bobby Witt Jr., he's probably going to be top 3 in MVP this year. Hot take. But I just don't see like Cleveland, the starting pitching there, the depth. I know they have young arms, but where do young arms take you? And I don't really know with this Cleveland offense that can't really hit. So let's move on to number 3.
Yeah, I have Cleveland 3. I think their arms are very interesting. I think their arms are at a point where, like, next year, if we're sitting down and doing this, we could be seriously saying, like, hey, Cleveland's arms are proven. Like, they have 5 young guys, or I mean, Bieber might be gone by then, but whatever. Like, they have enough, like, legit guys that you can, like, pitching will get you a long way, especially in a division that's pretty weak. I really, really like their pitching. Their bats definitely leave a little bit to be desired. I think, again, skipping ahead a tiny bit, I think if you took the Guardians rotation and the Detroit's bats and put those on one team, I think that would be a team that could really do some serious damage. But between the two of them right now, I would have Cleveland 3rd.
I have Kansas City coming in 3rd. They have an explosive offense, a lot of young guys, but the pitching just isn't great. Bobby will have another great year. I think Pasquantino will be able to put some more together and be healthy for a full year and have a solid year. But besides those guys, they're just not such a good team. The pitching really just isn't great. Bottom of the league. But in a few years, they can be a contender level team. But right now, they're just not that good.
I'm going to take Kansas City, and I mentioned in the 4th for 4th with Guardians. I like the foundation that they have. I like that they brought in veteran pitchers this year, and they have Cole Reagans, they have Seth Lugo, Michael Walker. So I'm going to go Royals at 3rd. Number 2.
I have Detroit 2nd. Might sound like a bit of a hot take to some people. I think that's partially that I'm semi-high, like higher on them than I have been in the past. And I also think it's kind of just that like the AL Central is the AL Central. And like, it's, if you luck into 500, you might finish, 5 games out of the division at the end of the year. So yeah, but I think Detroit had a few years where it was kind of like, what are we doing? We have no sense of direction. But I think now, like they just locked up Colt Keith. They have some really legit prospects on the way. I don't love Flaherty and Maeda, but like those are 2 guys that like I think if either of them had like an ERA above like 5 this year, I think we would be pretty surprised. Like I think you can probably pencil those guys in for like you would like to hope 25 starts each with an ERA in the 4s. And like they kind of haven't had like stabilizing veterans in the rotation for a long time. Again, I'm not sitting here saying like they're going to make the all-star team or anything like that. But I like that Detroit, I like that they have a sense of direction now. And I think next year could be the year that we're saying like Detroit or Cleveland. I think really either one of those teams, we could be sitting here next year saying like, hey, you know what? They might have only won 84 games last year, but the young pieces that showed some stuff last year, plus maybe they had 1 or 2 veterans at the deadline or next offseason, we could like really be like, all right, there's something we could talk ourselves into here.
Second place for me will be the Guardians. The pitching there is just, it's elite. Shane Bieber, Tristan McKenzie, Cal Quantrill, Manuel Clase, James Karinchak, just a ton of like really, really good pitchers. The lineup though is, you have Jose Ramirez, you need Andres Jimenez to bounce back, Steven Kwan, you need a solid year from him. If those guys can all, hit well, it's still pretty top-heavy lineup, but Josh Naylor, my bad, I forgot about him. It's top-heavy lineup. Besides those guys, there's just not that much other like good hitters, but if those guys come together, they can make the playoffs and possibly win the division this year.
I'm going to take the Tigers here at 2. I mean, if you define what do you think the most mid team in the league is, I think it's going to be the Detroit Tigers. They're young. They got some veterans. I don't really see them. I see them at 2, and I think maybe they can make the playoffs because they played in such a weak division. And I think a key factor for the Tigers is going to be Casey Mize, the first pick in the MLB draft. And, the way his career is looking right now, he could end up on a Jolly Olive video. So, I mean, he has to get going. I saw him pitch the other day, but he was the number 1 overall pick. I think people forget that, and he hasn't really produced at the major league level.
Yeah, it's true. It's a big year for him.
So let's go number 1. I think everyone's going to pick the Minnesota Twins.
Yeah, I was higher on Minnesota last year than I am this year, I think. Like Pablo Lopez is awesome. The lineup is going to do enough, but they did lose some like pretty like notable pieces this offseason. Maeda and who else am I forgetting? There was someone else in their rotation that they lost.
Sonny Gray.
Yeah, Sonny Gray and Maeda. Like those are like Sonny Gray was a top 3 Cy Young finisher last year, something like that. And they didn't really do anything to replace those innings at all. Like I think their offseason was like Carlos Santana and they got Manny Margot from the Dodgers. I don't think they really did anything else beyond that. And those are 2 like really solid pitchers that again, like I said on Detroit, like I'm not sitting here saying Maeda is going to make the All-Star team, but like that's the type of guy that, like if you see him on, getting All-Star votes this year, like you shouldn't be like totally shocked by that. Like he's been there and done it before. I do think that there is a world where someone in the AL Central challenges them, but I think all 4 of the other teams in the AL Central, I don't know that. Like whatever, they're obviously all going to say like, yeah, we want to win the division, but in their heart of hearts, I don't know that any of those 4 front offices really are like planning to gun for the division this year when they're considering like long-term versus short-term goals. And I think Minnesota, even though they did lose some pieces, I do still think that they're the best team in that division.
Yeah, I agree with that. This year, having a full year of Royce Lewis, who was great in the postseason last year. Full year of Edouard Julien, who's had a great rookie season last year. If Carlos Correa can bounce back, they can be a good team. They could win 90+ games this year. I don't see a world really where they don't win this division. It's just all the other teams are so far behind. Losing Jorge Polanco obviously hurts, but they still have a solid team. They still will win this division. And in the AL Central, you don't need that many good players to compete to win. So I see them winning the division this year.
I'm going to go Minnesota Twins too. And I mean, you guys mentioned every reason why you should go Twins 1. I do think the Tigers in a couple years, they're going to overtake the Twins, but I think it's the Twins division right now. And let's move on to the AL West. And I think the bottom 2 teams in this division is going to be Oakland and LA. So let's just go to 3. And mine, let's start with you. What's your number 3 team, Max?
This was a tough one for me. I'm going to go Seattle 3rd. I would love to be wrong. I think Seattle is a team that I'm rooting for just because I think it would be a really cool story. Their pitching is like really good, like really, really good. I think that's like that for a little while. Like I think that's starting to become like a mainstream take. I think that was like a baseball nerd take for a long time. And I think people are realizing now, like, no, like that rotation is really legit. I like that they went and got Jorge Polanco this offseason. I think at the end of the day, like Seattle can only have so many years of being like the fun, like, oh, people are like glad that they're like an 85-90 win team again. Like at a certain point, they're going to have to go. They did lose Teoscar and Eugenio Suarez this offseason, which those are 2 pretty legit losses in your lineup. So the pitching is really going to have to carry that team. DePoto likes to make trades. You'd like to think that if they were in the mix by July, that DePoto's not afraid to go get them a bat if they need it. But yeah, I don't see them taking. As of right now, the top 2 teams in that division are still a step ahead of them for me.
Yeah, I agree with you. Seattle being in 3rd. Julio Rodriguez this year is going to take another big step. If he start the year hot, he really can have an MVP level year. The last 2 years, he started out slow, and that kind of affected his season. But Julio Rodriguez, gets off to a good start. He's a great player. France is a great player. One of the most underrated guys in the league. Getting Jorge Polanco is a great move. He's been very, very solid the last few years. Again, the rotation, Logan Gilbert, Luis Castillo, Brian Wu, like a bunch of great pitchers, a lot of young guys. They have a few years, they will be the best team in this division. Right now, they're still the 3rd best team.
So I'm going to address something that I think everyone's scared to address, and I think I'm going to be the only person in the world saying this right now, but I think the Texas Rangers are the 3rd best team in this division. I think it's this close, this division, and I think they just lost a humongous arm in Jordan Montgomery. I mean, I could be wrong if he signed.
They didn't lose him yet.
If he signs with the Rangers in the next 3 years, I could be wrong. But I think that adding Michael Lorenzen is not a better fit for the Rangers. I think they needed Jordan Montgomery. I mean, I love the offense, but I think the Mariners pitching is on a different level. So let's move on to number 2.
Yeah, I don't disagree that Monty would be a really big loss for the Rangers. I still, at the end of the day, if I had to pick a team, I would still guess that he and the Rangers just figure it out. I don't like sources on this or anything, but I would I would guess that the Rangers going to get Lorenzen, I think their mindset on that was kind of like, well, he's a depth arm that we could use anyways, and we can go back to Boris and be like, hey, look, we don't need him that badly. Like they can show like they're not that desperate for him. And Monty's market is very weird right now. Like the Yankees are being connected to him, which we hadn't heard whispers of that in like months. The Rangers lineup sold me like last postseason. Like that lineup, just 1 through 9. They have a bunch of guys that do their job. We were talking in the office about, and I think Jake would talk a lot about this on Talking Yanks, about how like last year, like Glaber was kind of the shining light in like a really bad Yankee season that we were like, hey, Glaber is having a really nice year. And like, this isn't to discredit Glaber, but like he didn't have an amazing year last year. I think he kind of looked like it's great that he had a good year, but Yankees fans were kind of just like, oh, like Glaber's having an amazing year just because everything else looked so bad. The Rangers had like 8 Glabers last year that they were running out there. Like they had Robbie Grossman hitting 3rd in their World Series lineup, and it didn't matter. Like they had so many dudes that they were just running out that they were producing. They're going to add Wyatt Langford this year, and like that front office has convinced me that they just know how to build lineups. And the pitching is not great, like you said, especially if they don't bring back Monty. But I trust the pitching to do enough, and I trust, like, listen, that front office has shown that they are more than happy to go out and add arms. So I don't doubt that they're willing to do that at the deadline if they have to.
You're scared to put the Astros at 2.
Sorry,
you're scared to put the Astros at 2.
Yeah, that too. Also, like I'm like the same way that I said, like the Yankees are my, like I'm not going to take them to be first. The Astros too. I know that like whatever, the Rangers won the World Series and Astros won the division, blah blah blah. You could have those arguments all day. At the end of the day, like the Astros for me are like, I'm going to assume they are winning the AL West in the ALCS and winning the ALCS, frankly, until like I have really good reason to think otherwise with that team. They've been there too many times and done it too many times.
Yeah, I have the Rangers coming in second place too. The lineup is just stacked. Corey Seager, Marcus Semien, Nathaniel Lau, Adolis Garcia, calling up Wyatt Langford. It's just stacked. It's the best lineup in baseball. And their pitching, it's kind of underrated. Like they have Max Scherzer, Nathan Eovaldi last year at a Cy Young level season. John Gray's solid. Andrew Heaney, you don't know what you're going to get with him, but he can be solid. Lorenzen was solid last year. It's a pretty well-rounded team. They are a good team. They could definitely win the division this year, but right now, again, you can't really bet against the Astros. They've been amazing the last few years. They're really like on a dynasty type of level right now, and bringing in Josh Hader, they're definitely the number 1 team, but Rangers are second. They could, in the coming years, or even this year, take over and win the division.
Okay, so I'm going to put Houston at 2. And because I think the Mariners are going to take a big step this year. I love the Mariners pitching. And I think Houston, the injuries are starting to pile up. Verlander, I think it's Jose Urquidy who's hurt. And I think, the Astros, they started off slow last year. And I think if they start off slow this year, it's going to hurt them. I think the Mariners aren't starting off slow. I think the Mariners are going to be hot to start. They're going to finish the season hot. So I'm going to go Mariners at 1, Astros at 2.
Okay.
So I'm guessing Max, you guys both have Houston at 2, right? I'm in at 1.
Yeah, he's still on. Yeah.
I'm just like, for my own well-being, I need to go into it already assuming like so that I'm not heartbroken again. Like I need to go into it being like, all right, listen, Houston's going to be really good and someone has to knock them off. And to the Rangers' credit, they did that last year. But the Rangers, I don't know. There are a couple other teams that I feel like you could pretty confidently say are better than Houston. Like in baseball, I don't think the Rangers are there yet.
Okay, yeah, Houston's just stacked. Yeah. Everywhere. They have no weaknesses.
Yeah, and especially the bullpen that they added. They added Hader and a very already stacked bullpen.
That back 3 is going to be gross of Hader, Presley, and Abreu. Like you're not going to find many better bullpen trios in all of baseball than that. That's like three guys who you could gladly hand the ball to in the 9th inning and say go get it and wouldn't feel bad about it at all.
So let's move on to the NL. Let's go to the NL East, and I think this is the first division that we're going to agree on all 5. Number 5.
Yeah, it could be. I would Nats 5. I don't know. Again, kind of similar boat to like the similar-ish to the Tigers Guardians almost, where it's like they have some young pieces that I like, but they're still a couple years away from me.
Yeah, I agree with you. Nationals at 5, just not a very good team. They're rebuilding. Like there's no real like expectations from them this year. They're the worst team in a stacked division, really. Like who knows what noise they can make in a different division, but in the NL East, they're just the clear worst team.
I'm going to take the Nationals, too. They're young. They got Dylan Cruz. They got C.J. Abrams, Mackenzie Gore. They're all going to take big steps this year. I mean, they're young. They got Joey Gallo, so they're going to lead the league in strikeouts this year. But yeah, I'm going to go Nationals at 5. Number 4.
I have the Marlins 4. They're still I don't know. Their like whole rotation is on the IL going into the season, which is really tough because their team is built on the backs of their rotation. They're not as bad as the Nationals, but there's like a very clear drop off from the Mets to the Marlins and Nats for me.
Yeah, I agree with you with the Marlins at 4. Again, a team, they're very injured. I'm excited to see Sixto Sanchez this year. Haven't seen him pitch in since 2020. Really excited to see what his stuff looks like. I really hope he could see a full season of Jazz Chisholm. We haven't really seen that yet. Who knows what he can do in a full season? But they're still the 4th best team right now in the NL East.
I'm going to go Marlins too for all the reasons you guys just mentioned. And number 3, let's all say it on 3. 3, 2, 1. The New York Metropolitans.
Right? Yeah. I was glad for them that they went out and got JD. I thought that was like a really good addition.
Yeah.
Burns has been saying well, we want to try to compete, but we also want to give the young guys run. And next year, whether they have a lot of big decisions to make next winter as far as how much do they want to go after Soto? Does that impact Alonso? Bregman, Burns are guys that they've been connected to. So next winter is really going to be go time for them. But this year, I'm glad that they're actually putting a product that feasibly could make the playoffs out there, but they're still not. There's still a drop off from them to the Phillies and Braves for me.
Yeah, I agree with you there. The Mets, a lot of question marks. Really don't know what you're going to get with them this year. Kodai Senga, him being out for a month, that really, really hurts them. He was sensational last year. Getting JD Martinez, a big addition. He had a really underrated season last year. He had a big rebound season last year. He had OPS near 900, I think around 870, which is elite. If Starling Marte rebounds, they can be a playoff team, maybe even finish second. But maybe finish second. But right now they're 3rd.
I'm gonna go Mets too. And I mean, there's a lot of question marks in that rotation right now. Is Quintana what he once was? Can Severino find it again? Can Minaya find it again? And I mean, the answer is mostly leaning no here. So I think that the Mets, especially with the Braves and Phillies in the division, I think the Mets, this is the gap year. Next year, they got to go. And when they go, they're going to go because they got Alonso in that lineup. I think they re-signed him. They got Nimmo still. They still got McNeil. They still got Marte. They got Bader this year. And I think this is a really solid offense, but I don't think this is a playoff team.
Yeah, I agree.
Number 2.
I have the Phillies 2 and the Braves 1, just because the Braves are the Braves and they're an absolute juggernaut. I know the Phillies have knocked them off last 2 years, but there's that. You're not going to get me to bet against the Braves to win that division. They just do everything too well. The organization is you would be hard pressed to find anything they don't do well. But I do think that the gap between the Phillies and the Braves this year is shorter than it was last year. I think last year, even though the Phillies had just beaten the Braves in the playoffs, I think everyone still came in being all right, the Braves are still clearly better than the Phillies. This year, I do think they're the Braves are still clearly better than the Phillies, but I would be less surprised this year if the Phillies actually made an at least bid, because I think the Braves, I don't think the Phillies are scared of the Braves at all. I think the Phillies are kind of they just show up to the playoffs and it's all right, we got to play whoever, sure, let's go. But I think Jake was saying this on Talking Baseball, I think on Talking Baseball, that he was I'd like for this to be the year that the Phillies go out and prove they can do it in the regular season too, and I agree with him on that.
Yeah, the Phillies are a very well-rounded team. They're the second best team, but they're a very, 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 very good team. Any other division, really, they would be my favorite to win. They have Bryce Harper, Trey Turner, Aaron Nola, Zach Wheeler, just really, really good team. Gregory Soto they got. Yeah. No real holes for them, but they're going up against the Braves, which is probably, in my opinion, the best team in baseball right now, over the Dodgers, yes. But yeah, they're going up against the Braves. It's very, very hard to go ahead of them. You're going to need injuries from the Braves, and you're going to need the Phillies to stay healthy, but they're going to finish second this year.
To me, it feels like the Phillies know that, hey, we're going to make the playoffs. Let's have fun in the regular season, then the playoffs, we're better than anyone because they got one of the top 2 starting pitcher duos in the league. And, the playoffs is when the Phillies become the Phillies. Last year in the regular season, they started off slow, kind of came hot down the stretch, and they lost the division to the Braves. But they don't care because I think they could beat the Braves. I think they're better than the Braves. I just think that when they don't really care about the regular season, they care mostly about the playoffs because then they know in the playoffs they could beat the Braves. So let's move on to the NL Central, and I'm going to start. I think the Pittsburgh Pirates are number 5.
Yeah, we all have Pirates 5.
Yeah.
Again, kind of glad they have some nice like pieces that they can build around now, but the Pirates, like, I think usually when teams are bad, we give them like 1 to 2 years of like, all right, you're allowed to be bad. The Pirates at this point, it's kind of like, all right, we're going on like 5 years of them having nothing. I'm like, I'd like to see them take that next step, but we've been saying that for a while. And I have the Reds 4 in the NL Central. Could go a couple different ways with this. I think if you asked me a month, like earlier in the offseason, you might have gotten me to say the Brewers. But I would go Reds 4. Their pitching worries me. I do like their lineup. I do like their young bats, but Ellie's got to do it for a full year. Like Ellie went kind of from the top of the world to like a below average hitter really, really, really fast last year. And yeah, the pitching they have a couple guys. You could talk yourself individually to all of their guys being like a solid 3 starter, but like Hunter Green's got to become that guy this year. Big year for Frankie Montas. Like he's got to really get his career back on track. Abbott, they have some other guys you could talk yourself into, but there's a bit of I need to see a little bit more from them.
Your mic is off.
I got the Brewers coming in 4th this year. No big additions. Lost Corbin Burns. Brandon Woodruff's going to be out for some considerable time. They're an aging team. They have some young prospects, Jackson Chourio coming up. But right now, they're just not such a good team. And they're going to be 4th in the division this year.
Okay, so if we would have done this episode, which was scheduled for last week, I think the Reds would have been my World Series pick because of the wild card team and their good pitching. But it's all come off the rails for them. Matt McClain is out. Novelli Marte got suspended. So I think that they've fallen, and I think this division, they're a solid division, but they have a lot of infielders, but what does that translate to? I like that they went out and got Santino Espinal yesterday, but again, what is that going to translate to? I think it's going to translate to 4th in that division. Number 3, I think I know you're going to go.
Yeah, I think the Brewers are 3rd.
Yeah.
Again, Brewers Reds 3-4 is a bit of a tough call for me. And like, I don't know, frankly, if either of those teams finish as top 2 in the division, I don't think anyone should be like shocked. Like if either of those teams has everything go right, they're still a really good baseball team. When the Brewers traded Burns, I kind of just started operating under the assumption that like they weren't planning on contending this year, but they've made quite a few moves since then that I don't know if I necessarily like them, but they've made enough moves since then that make you think like, oh, wow, like you guys actually do want to compete. And they won the division last year. I know they didn't do anything in the playoffs, but like there's still something to be said for the fact they won the division last year. Their front office has like, they can develop arms. I think Burns and Woodruff, they kind of like rode the success of those two for a while. But the bullpen's going to be solid. Williams out for a while hurts that, obviously, but their bullpen last year, they had some guys that, Abner Uribe, all Piamps, like they had some guys that can really, really go get you outs in the 8th, 9th inning. And I don't know. I've always just kind of liked the Brewers for a while. I can't quite put my finger on why, but I like them. Yelich, Contreras, like they have a better lineup than I think I gave them credit for a while. So I have them 3rd.
Yeah, I got the Reds coming in 3rd. Ellie De La Cruz, I think he's going to put it all together this year. He's going to have a great year, being an all-star. Matt McClain being injured obviously hurts them. I probably would have had them winning the division had he stayed healthy. He had a really, really good year last year. Santiago Espinal, very like a good under-the-radar signing. He had a great 2022. Last year he struggled a bit, but he has it in him to be a productive player. I think Hunter Green this year will take a big step, have a great year. Nick Lodolo. They just got a lot of young, good guys. They got a good direction. In a few years, they're going to be a contending team, but right now they're the 3rd best team in the NL Central.
I'm going to pick the Brewers here. I think they're a really solid team. They got Christian Yelich, still pretty good, not as good as he once was. They got Jackson Chourio. They've got a solid offense, William Contreras, and the pitching, they still got Freddie Peralta. I think this is the 3rd best team in the division. Let's go to number 2.
This was a tough call for me. I am going to go with the Cubs in 2nd.
Ooh.
Bit of a hot take, I know. Well, I'll start with the Cubs. I really like them. I do think they're like a good team. I really like Justin Steele. I had him in fantasy last year, and he helped me out a lot. So I really like him. His last month of the season kind of tanked his stats, but I really do think that he not enough people are including him in conversations of like the best young starters in baseball. Like, you'd be surprised how few names you would list, especially if you just do the NL before you get to Justin Steele. Like, look at his numbers up until September last year. He was like a guy. Like, he didn't have bad starts. Like, he was quality start after quality start after quality start. I really like for them. They went out and kept Bellinger. They just have enough guys on their team that do their job. Like, Seiya Suzuki is a guy that, like, not blowing anyone away, but like the production he brings to them, he would have been the best hitter on the Yankees last year. Like, Swanson is like, I was questioning that contract when they gave it. He proved me wrong. Awesome year last year. Nico Horner, like, still developing and is a really good player. But to me, we'll get to the Cardinals, but I have the Cubs second.
I have the Cardinals finishing second. They have a great top of.
You froze out.
Yeah, you froze out for a sec.
So I'm just gonna give my take. I'm gonna take the Cardinals. I think the Cardinals. They got Sonny Gray. They brought in they brought in Lance Lynn. They brought in Jordan Lyles. I don't know. They were solid arms last year. I mean, Lance Lynn kind of imploded in the playoffs, got to get the most homers in the league. But I mean, they still got Nolan Arenado. They still got Paul Goldschmidt. They got Jordan Walker's gonna have a big year. They lost Tyler O'Neill, Paul DeYoung. I don't know where I currently sit with the Cardinals. This is probably the biggest question mark I have for a team. So I'm gonna put the Cardinals at 2.
Yeah, I'll go while he's frozen. I don't have like a ton of basis for it. I really just think that the Cardinals last year were like, everything that could have gone bad did go bad. And I think they were in a position where they kind of, I was talking to Jake a couple weeks ago and he said this, he was like, they just got like baseballed last year. It was like, they started slow. A lot of guys didn't click early on, and then things just snowballed way too far out of control for them that they never had a chance to get back in it. And for this year, I don't know, I'm not someone who really cares about managers that much. Like, I generally think that even the best and worst managers, 2-3 wins, losses a year aren't making that much of a difference. But it was a little I wonder if anything happened with Marmol. It's a little weird to me that they just went ahead and got that out there. That they kept him. But yeah, I liked their offseason was kind of risky as far as just going and building around older starters. But I do like Sonny Gray. I do like the guys that they brought in. And I'm just I think because I just want them to be good, I'm just choosing to believe that things can't be as bad as they were last year.
So I'm going to go to the Cubs. I think I like what they did. Shota Imanaga's really great pitcher. Re-signing Cody Bellinger, which was great for them. Probably only going to have him for 1 year. We'll see if he bounces back from his 2021 self. I think that's the biggest question mark with him. Will he get paid? Or because people are still questioning his stats because he was hurt, obviously, 2021, 2022. Yeah. And I think he had a good year 2023. Can he show it again? I mean, Justin Steele is a great pitcher. I love that rotation. I love, what's his name? Dansby Swanson. I love that contract. I just love everything about the Chicago Cubs, and I think this is a team that could go far. But let's move on to the NL West, and let's not talk about the Rockies because not really much to talk about there. So let's go on to 4. This is, I think, the most complicated division we've had yet.
Yeah, NL West is really tricky, and I felt like whoever I picked in 4th, it was gonna seem like I'm taking shots at them when it really isn't shots fired. This is just from, I think we're all gonna have the same number 1, but from 2 to 4, you could really go anyway. I had the Diamondbacks in 4th, which I know they went to the World Series last year and all that. At the moment, in the moment of that playoff run in the World Series, I didn't want to be a downer and kind of hating on the young fun team, but I did have a little bit of a sense of all right, this is just peak, the playoffs get random and crazy stuff happens. I do I liked their offseason. I did like what they went out and did, but I think that they had too many young guys that all really stepped up last year, and that was awesome. But is Gabby Moreno going to be the same player this year? I don't know. Corbin Carroll, I think, is going to be a really, really good player. Is he going to be in the MVP conversation again? I don't know. I wouldn't sit here and make like there's a lot of other guys that I would put ahead of Corbin Carroll as far as like I can confidently say they'll be top 5 in MVP voting. And I don't know, like the same way that with the Orioles, I kind of just wonder, and even the Reds, like I kind of just wonder if they're just going to have like the growing pains of being a young team and, you know, sophomore slump and all that. I'm not like confident enough in the Diamondbacks being good to justify putting them ahead of any of the top 3 in that division.
Yeah, I agree with you. Diamondbacks in 4th. Corbin Carroll, he had a great year last year. Christian Walker, great year last year. But again, I don't know, can he repeat that? Zach Gallen this year, I see him having a massive year. He had a great first half last year, kind of fell off a bit in the second half. Still a great year overall. Merrill Kelly had a solid year last year. Brandon Fad, I don't know. Excuse me if I'm saying that name wrong. He had a great postseason. Can he do it in the regular season? I don't know. But they're right now the 4th best team in the NL West. It's not a shot at them. It's just stacked division. It's the best division in baseball for sure.
So I'm going to go out for the San Diego Padres only because they lost probably the best hitter we've seen in the past 10 years in Juan Soto. I mean, he's a big piece to lose. I like what they did in the Korea series. They played well. I mean, but the other 3 teams in this division are really, really good. And I mean, their rotation is really good for the Padres. I just don't think they have enough to overthrow the Giants, Diamondbacks, and Dodgers.
Yeah, I would have the Padres in 3rd. I think if you asked me before the Cease trade, I think I probably would have had the Padres 4th, Diamondbacks 3rd. But that Cease trade, like that top 4 of that rotation of, in whatever order you want to do them, Cease, Musgrove, Darvish, and King, like those are King, whatever. Maybe there's a little bit of like Yankee fan in there, but King was awesome last year for the Yankees when they tried him as a starter. Like the fact that Michael King went from like long reliever that we're still kind of figuring out what we want to do with him to like the main piece of the trade for like the best hitter on the planet, maybe. Like that speaks volumes. That really says a lot as to like how far Michael King came, and that's awesome. And that it wasn't just the Yankees that internally were evaluating that like other teams were like, hey, that's a guy we're comfortable being the headliner of this deal. So, yeah, and, like, their lineup is still really good. They had a lot of really weird, like, one-run game, unlucky stuff last year. Like, them and the Orioles were kind of the flip sides of that coin. Like, Baltimore was great in one-run games, and San Diego was just bad in them. So you wonder if there's going to be a little bit of correction there. But Cease is a little bit weird because I think whoever was trading for him this offseason was just going to be kind of banking on hoping that Chicago really had no idea what they were doing with him. Like you're kind of just hoping that this is a really, really, really talented pitcher that organization was just such a mess that they had no idea how to get the best out of him. And I think we'll probably find that out pretty fast because the Padres are a pretty good pitching organization. And we shall see.
I got the Giants coming in 3rd this year. Yes, they got Blake Snell and Jung Hoo Lee. I don't see Blake Snell having another Cy Young level season or even All-Star season. Last year he walked. He led the league in walks. Why do I see him repeating these like those stats last year? He got lucky last year. Him and Jordan Montgomery last year, I'm a believer in them. You know, just they got lucky. The fly balls that were getting hit hard, they were getting caught last year for Blake Snell. I don't see him repeating this. I see him having an ERA at the high 3s, maybe even 4s like he had 2022, 2021. I just don't see him having another great year really for the rest of his career. I think he's an overrated pitcher in the league. I didn't really want the Yankees to get him because of that. And Jung Hoo Lee, yes, he was great in Korea, but he didn't even have a 900 OPS in Korea, which scouts like compare to AA. You're paying a guy $100 million who had a 300 in Korea with under 10 home runs every single year. Why is that going to make him an all-star level player worth $100 million in the MLB? It's not how it works. He's not going to be that good, and the Giants are just mid. They're not that good. They're the 3rd best team in the NL West.
Okay, so I'm also going to go to Giants here at 3. And, I mean, I think they're going far in the playoffs. Name me 3 better pitching rotations, 1 and 2, than Blake Snell and Logan Webb. And I think they're top 3. Nola and Wheeler. That definitely comes to mind. Maybe Cole and Rodon if Rodon bounces back. Gallen and Carroll and Merrill Kelly. I mean, maybe.
I mean, what about the Dodgers?
Yeah, Dodgers are cute.
What about the Dodgers? Class on Yamamoto would be good.
Okay, so back to the Giants. I think, as Talking Jake likes to say, if this team can go, they can go. And I think there's a lot of question marks, but still, Matt Chapman's always going to be a great defender. Jorge Soler's going to bring them some pop. And after that, it's going to all kind of figure itself out. I think that's what the Giants are. They got a great bullpen, Jordan Hicks, both the Rogers brothers. I like this Giants team. I think they will go far in the playoffs. Kyle Harrison, he's a great left-handed pitcher in the starting rotation. This team is going to go far, and I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, I have the Giants second in the NL West. Again, I think that 2 through 4 could really shake out anyway, and no one should be surprised. I'm not totally sold on Snell, but I think Snell is a really good fit for the Giants because I really like the way he and Logan Webb complement each other. That Logan Webb is kind of becoming like the modern day Young, just like innings eater, like kind of like what Garrett Cole is, that it's just like this guy's going to go out there and you can feel good that he's going to give you like minimum 6 innings every single time he takes the ball. Like he really doesn't have a lot of just bad starts. And then someone like Snell, who, the ceiling is incredibly high. Like, again, he has 2 Cy Young awards for a reason. But as far as consistency and as far as depth into games that he's going to go, it's a little bit more of a question. I really like that he has like someone else to fall back on. That it's like, all right, the guy who went the day before me or the day after me, whatever they do, like the bullpen probably can rest a little bit more that day. I think the Giants offseason, when they got Chapman and Snell, it went from like weird to like, I like this. I really liked the way that the Giants obviously missed on Judge, Correa, Trey Turner, all those guys. And I kind of liked that. Like when the Angels missed on Garrett Cole, they like panicked and just gave all that money to Rendon, even though people around baseball supposedly like kind of knew like Rendon's kind of checked out, and like we all know how that's worked out for them. The Giants took that like $300 whatever million and they kind of reallocated it to like a whole bunch of pieces that, sure, like Snell, Chapman, Young-Woo Lee, like you said, like all those guys have varying degrees of question marks, but like a lot would have to go wrong for all of those guys to be like bad this year in my eyes. And just because of that, I think enough of those guys will click and they have enough of a foundation already. Plus a GM who's not afraid to go swing a deal that I think their ceiling is second in the division and I'll have them there.
I got the Padres second place because their lineup is still stacked. Yes, they lost Juan Soto, but they still have Fernando Tatis, Manny Machado, Xander Bogaerts, Jay Cronenworth. Still got a lot of really, really good hitters, and the rotation it's one of the best in baseball. You have Dylan Cease, who was like one of the best at striking out people in baseball. He was kind of on the flip side of what Blake Snell had last year. He was very unlucky last year. You have Dylan Cease, Joe Musgrove, Yu Darvish, Michael King, he was amazing last year for the Yankees in that September that he started games. They just have a really, really good team. The bullpen is a bit of a question, but besides that, they starting rotation in the lineup is just stacked. And they're the second best team, and yes, they're better than the Giants.
I'm going to go Diamondbacks at 2. I mean, they just made the World Series. Why not put them at 2? Again, Zach Allen, Merrill Kelly. I think Brandon Pfaadt, he pitched great in the postseason last year. I think he's going to have a great regular season. They're young. They're going to have growing pains, but I think this is a really good baseball team. They got Eugenio Suarez. They added, forgetting who else they added this year, but
they had a good offseason. They
had a sneaky good offseason. Yeah, and before we move on,
he's going to be like really important to that rotation, but yeah.
Before we move on, I just see this article right here that says insider hints at season-ending surgery for Yankees ace Garrett Cole. I don't know how reliable that is, but I mean,
which website?
From newsbreak.com.
What is that?
I don't.
What? It's not reliable?
If Garrett Cole was out for the season, you would have heard it from Jack Curry or John Heyman.
No, he said he hints at it. He said it might happen. So,
all right, that's
okay. So we're gonna pretend like that didn't happen.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's move on to number 1, the Los Angeles Dodgers.
Yeah, I woke up early for both games this week. I was glad I did. I don't know, Yamamoto, that first start was interesting. Obviously, like there's a whole lot of other stuff going on with that organization right now that's going to be very interesting to see how it plays out. But Yeah, like, listen, I think you would be a fool to sit here and say, like, oh, Yamamoto had one bad start. That means he's a bust. Like, obviously, you can't do that. But, like, there's nothing to that. Like, Yamamoto is now coming back to LA with, like, I think a much bigger chip on his shoulder than probably anyone expected him to have, like, to the point where, like if Yamamoto, if we're at the All-Star break and his ERA is in the 4s, I think everyone is sitting there like, hey, what's going on here? But, like, I don't know. We shouldn't dwell on the negative. The Dodgers assembled, like, a god squad of unreal MLB talent to the point that, like, Teoscar Hernandez, who probably had 3-year offers on the table elsewhere, was like, I'd rather take a 1-year deal and just go play with that team because they're going to be really good. So, yeah, I think you would be a fool to not take the Dodgers in this division.
Yeah, the Dodgers stacked. That top 3 of Freddie Freeman, Mookie Betts, and Shohei Ohtani is lethal. It's the best top 3 maybe in baseball history. It's 3 MVPs right there. Yamamoto, yes, he had a bad start. There is a bit of concern with that because he pitched pretty badly in the Japanese playoffs. Can he handle pressure pitching in the MLB playoffs and in MLB regular season games in LA with the media that they have there? But again, like, yeah, not too much to be concerned. It is just one start. The distractions with Ohtani and his interpreter is something to pay attention to. Was Ohtani involved? Was he not? But right now, like, we really don't know what happened with that. So if Ohtani's healthy, if Ohtani doesn't get suspended, and even if he does, I still think they are the best team in this division by, like, a landslide.
Okay, obviously the Dodgers are one of the best team in baseball. I think when it comes to playoff time, there's a few question marks that scare me. Tyler Glasnow, he's prone to injury. Will he be there for the postseason? And after Glasnow Yamamoto, there's really a big drop-off. And what wins you games in October is the pitching. So I don't know how far this team will get in October. But one thing that's shocking to me, and I think that's this opening day, Tyler Glasnow, I think, is going to pitch again, which would mean he would have 2 starts before everyone else has 1. Am I right? He's pitching opening day?
I haven't seen that anywhere, but I don't doubt it.
He probably is pitching opening day.
I mean, the way that they managed in the Korea series, because they had Mike King come out of the bullpen. Like, these guys are not going to be ready for another week. They're going back to spring training after this. So, I mean, it's crazy that he's going to have 2 starts before the rest of the league has 1, which is wild to think about.
Yeah, that is
but
weird.
Let's move on to our last segment of today. Your World Series pick. Who do you have?
Listen, again, there's a little bit of Yankee fan being like, oh, just take the Yankees. And, like, the fan in me is saying Yankees, sure. Otherwise, as far as, like, baseball goes, to the extent that you can predict it, I don't know how you can not take the Dodgers. Like, they have too much money invested in this team. Like, it's unbelievable the extent. Like, it's left the baseball world. It's like a sports story. Like, I have friends that aren't into baseball that are talking to me about, like, hey, that Ohtani guy's pretty good, huh? And, like, the fact, like the Dodgers are trying to, like, change the landscape of the relationship between, like, American and Japanese baseball. Like, they're trying to be, like, for the next 15 years, every single kid that's growing up in Japan, when they become when they're of age to, like, potentially go play baseball, they're going to want to go to the Dodgers because they just, like, watched Ohtani and Yamamoto when they were growing up. So, like, the Dodgers they're playing 4D chess around, like, the rest of baseball right now. Granted, baseball's really random. Again, the Arizona Diamondbacks won 83 games and won the World Series last year. Crazy stuff happens. No one should be shocked if it's, like, any team that we mentioned that could be in contention, but I don't know how you can not pick the Dodgers.
Well, the reason you can't pick, like, the reason somebody could say not the Dodgers is because in the postseason, really, it's who's hot and it's luck. If you read Moneyball, it says in every game, skill accounts for 1 to 2 runs per game. The luck is 4 runs. Mm-hmm. Like, the difference in that. It's just who gets hot in the playoffs. We see last year the Rangers and the Diamondbacks from the World Series. That's not the 2 best teams in the league. Not even close. It's the last few years. It hasn't been the best team in the World Series. I will pick the Dodgers just because that's who the best team is. And going into season, you can't predict luck. You can't predict who's going to get hot. The Dodgers are the best team right now, so I'm going to go with them.
All right. I'm going to take 2 wildcard teams because that seems to be the theme. Wildcard teams go to the World Series. And I'm going to be hot here because nobody predicted the Diamondbacks and the Rangers last year. So why not we choose a team that nobody's predicting? Give me the San Francisco Giants, and I think the New York Yankees beat the San Francisco Giants in 7.
Like that.
I would sign up.
Hopefully.
It's bold, but, we come back in October, and this clip will go viral that I chose the Giants to be in the World Series. So,
Definitely.
All right, thank you for coming on, Max. Always great to talk ball with you. And
You
everyone
got it,
remember to
guys.
like and subscribe on this video. Hopefully we'll have Max back at the end of the season to review on this video. And, we're going to laugh at all the wrong picks that we had. Yeah, thank you.